Well, hello. How is it going? Everything going well at home for you guys? Believe it or not, we actually miss you guys. It's a real different feel. But anyway, today's lesson, we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem to determine if the triangle is right. And to be able to do that, we are going to use the converse of the Pythagorean theorem, which means that when we have our C side, we're going to either talk about if it's right, if it's if it's equal, which would be right, and if it's larger, it's obtuse, and if it is smaller, it's acute. So if our side C is any of those, that will be, we're going to be figuring out if it's a right, obtuse, or an acute triangle today. So if you will turn to your book on page 28 in your book, we are going to do that, and I'm going to show you some examples of how to figure that out. So on page 28. So first thing we want to do is we are going to, let me give you some numbers. So let's put 6 here, 8 here, and 10 here. So these are the measurements of our sides of our triangle. Okay? So when we look at the transverse of the converse, of the Pythagorean theorem, we are going to always identify the longest side of the triangle. So the longest side of the triangle here will be our 10, right? So our 10, because that's, of course, larger than 6 and 8, of course. Okay, so now we're going to put it into our Pythagorean theorem, okay? So the C will always be the longest side, always be the longest side. So you can write that in. So our C will always be the longest side. Okay, so now let's go ahead and put in our Pythagorean theorem. 6 squared plus 8 squared equals 10 squared. And then we're going to find the area of those. 6 squared is 36. 8 squared is 64. And then, of course, 10 squared is 100. Okay, now then the next step is, of course, is to combine those common like terms there, and 36 plus 64 is 100. So now we see that 100 equals 100. Okay, so these two sides equal the same size as C. So that makes this triangle a right triangle. Okay, so that is a right triangle. Okay, let's try a different one now. If I had this side as a 9 and this side as a 9 and then this side is a 13, again, we're going to look for our longest side to be C. So that would be that. So then let's go ahead and put it into our formula. And we're going to have 9 squared plus 9 squared, that's our C, equals 13 squared. Okay, let's go ahead and find the area to those. So 9 squared is 81. Plus 9 squared is 81, and then 13 squared is 169. Okay, now we're going to add those common like terms right there. 81 plus 81 is 162, and bring down our 169. Now, we can tell right off the bat that 162 is less than the 169, but we're looking at the C, right? This is C, and so whatever C is, so C is greater than our A and B side. So this would make this obtuse. Don't forget to look at the C when you're trying to decide if it's greater than or less than. That is where we decide if it's obtuse or acute. So this is obtuse. Okay. Then let's go ahead and put some numbers on this triangle. So this side is 4, this one is 7, and then let's make this side 8. Okay, let's go ahead and put it into our formula. Remember, the longest side is C. So we have 4 squared plus 7 squared equals 8 squared. Remember, that is our C. And we have 16 plus 49 equals 64. Then add our combine our like terms, add those together, and we get 65. And then we bring down our 64. Remember, we're looking at the C to decide, and we can see that 64 is less than the 65. So remember we're looking at this C, so this is an acute because it's less than. So our C is less than our A and B together. So that would make that an acute angle. Okay, so make sure you use these as your notes if you need to go back to figure out what is obtuse and acute and obtuse. Okay, let's do a couple problems together. Let's go ahead and do number 1, and we'll do number 6 together. Okay, so first of all, we want to identify what our longest side is. And we can see that that's the 13, right? So our longest side is 13. So let's go ahead and put this in our, let me see if I can zoom it. Maybe I should zoom it a little bit. There we go. Sorry about that. Let's zoom it a little bit. So 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. Go ahead and find the area. 25 squared is, or 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144, and then 13 squared is 169. We are going to combine our like terms on the A and B side, and then we get 169 equals 169. So this makes this a right triangle. So this is a right triangle. Okay, let's jump down and do number 6 right here. So first things first, we're going to locate the largest side, which will be our C, and then we will go 20 squared plus 21 squared equals 28 squared. Okay, so let's go ahead and figure out that and go 20 squared is 441 plus 21 squared, oops, sorry, is 400. 400, excuse me. 421 squared is 441. And then 28 squared is 784. Okay, then we're going to combine those like terms, and we are going to get 841. And we see that it is greater than 784, but we are looking at C, which makes it's less than. This is less than, so that means it's smaller. So this is an acute acute triangle. Excuse me, acute triangle. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and just jump over to page, so that was page 29 that we did together, which will be one of your homework pages. And then let's just jump over quickly to page 30. And let's just do number 2 right here. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we need to identify the longest length, remember? So this we know right now is going to be our C, right? That'll be our C. So let's go ahead and do 18 squared plus 36 squared equals 45 squared. Okay, so 18 squared is 324 plus 36 squared is 1,296, and 45 squared equals 2,025. Now let's combine those like terms right here, and this would be 1620, and then we can see that this is side C is going to be greater than. So we have to write in, is it a right triangle? We would say no, because it is an obtuse one. Because our C, wow, let me spell, obtuse, is because that is larger. C is greater than our A and B. So that is how we are going to do that. Now, I want you to go ahead and write down some steps if you need to on how to do this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the largest side, of the triangle, and then we are going to put sides into a formula, put the sides into the formula. So this is number 1, sorry. This is number 2. Put the sides into the formula. And number 3 is we need to find the area. So whatever is squared, we need to figure out our squared. And then number 4, so for example, when I say find area, if I say 2 squared, that means 2 squared, that means it equals 4. Wow, I'm doing really well today. And then number 4 was we need to combine like terms on the side of A and B. And then number 5, if C is bigger, that equals obtuse. If C is smaller, that means it is acute. You can think, oh, if it's smaller, it's so cute. And then, and then if C is equal, that means you have a right triangle. Okay, go ahead and try those and see how well you do. Thanks.